Have you ever thought about how crazy the taxes are in America, how they're up and down and they fluctuate all the time and they're different and they never make sense for anything that they're for? As small businesses are taxed about 35% of their annual income, while large businesses and corporations are taxed about 9% of their annual income, which is a large difference when it comes to making money. On the other hand, in the personal sector of things, the rich get taxed a lot more, and then the poor get taxed a lot less, and it goes lower down the ladder, the lower you get taxed. So small businesses, it is really unfair to them how they're treated in their whole thing of making businesses and trying to help our economy, create jobs, do all of that, which are all real concerns for us right now. Small businesses account for a large amount of the payroll and how many jobs they create on a yearly basis and over the course of many, many years actually, and all businesses start out as small businesses. Small businesses count for 44% of the entire U.S. payroll in the private sector. They also account for almost half the jobs, half the people are employed in the private sector, 50%. A lot of them are home-based, and small businesses are actually classified as under 500 people, 500 employees. So that could be a pretty big company, but also it can be one person, and it's a home-based company where you do things on the internet, you advertise your stuff, you sell it online, whatever it is that you do. So small businesses are really important to our economy, and for them to have to pay that much of their annual income is extremely unfair and ridiculous. So the government does need that money anyway. They need that money in order to do health inspections or to give them permits and to govern and set guidelines for them to follow. It's very important for them to be able to have that money to continue operating, and the government needs that money. Those taxes, it is for them. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be taxed. I'm saying that the percentage of the taxation is completely wrong, because small businesses, how much do they make a year? Between $100,000, $50,000 on the low end of things to a couple million, right? And larger corporations make billions of dollars. So in order to tax about 35% of a small business, you're taking out a lot more of what they need to survive, while large businesses are able to, make adjustments, do what they need to do in order to continue with their business. Small businesses, especially when they're families, their money goes towards putting food on the table, towards giving jobs to other people who could help them grow their business. For example, if you run a spa, you could pay somebody else to market for you, to advertise for you, and that's creating a job for somebody else who specifically went to college for the marketing area or for advertisement. That is creating a job. There's this one story, Tony, he is a friend of mine. Him and his business partner, Greg, opened a pharmaceutical company where they make pills, they make supplemental vitamin pills and things like that, and they do that. So they have about 50 to 100 employees, and this is 10 years into their business, so it's taken a long time to get there. And with the past couple of years, obviously everyone's felt it with the financial crisis and things like that. They had to lay off so many people because of how much more the government taxed them. It's not that they don't have jobs for them. It's not that they don't have enough work for them. It's just that they can't afford to keep them on because of how much they're being taxed. It's up to 50% that they get taxed of their annual income. It's ridiculous. So, here's some fun facts about small businesses. 60 to 80% of all new jobs come from small businesses. Only 2% of them are franchises, which we think small businesses, it could be a fast food restaurant, it could be the Subway, the McDonald's, which are all fast food franchises. But no, only 2% of all of the small businesses are. Small business bankruptcies peaked in 2009, but are now lower than consumer bankruptcies. a small business went bankrupt every 8 minutes in 2009, which is insane. And that's, again, because of taxes. You can't afford to keep up with IRS taxes, Social Security taxes, all those things. It's a lot to keep up with, and you have to make those payments. They'll stop your accounts, they'll do all of that. So it's ridiculous. If immigrants, they make up 12.5% of the small business owners nationwide, which is a good amount, but it's not a lot either, which we also think, oh, all the jobs go to the immigrants who do the small businesses. Not true. The 77 million people that make up the U.S. small business workforce would rank as the 17th most populous country in the world, just after Iran. That's a lot of people, again, is the point that I keep trying to prove. Small businesses employ 57% of the private workforce, and 70% of small businesses are owned and operated by a single person, which is, again, a large statistic. About 50% of all small businesses that are started make it to 5 years, and 70% of them make it to 2 years, actually. So it's a good amount. It's not like they all quit within a year. But again, all those taxes do make it hard for them to keep up with what they're doing. Having no small businesses would destroy our economy, would destroy the workforce, would destroy how many people we need to be working. There are a lot of people that are doing that as their way of living. That's what they do, that's how they make their money. And in order for that to continue, we need to have that there. My proposition is that instead of taxing small businesses so high on such a ridiculous amount of money, they can put those taxes on alcohol, cigarettes, things that people buy all the time anyway. Just add a little more to it, add to the price, and that would be something that everyone continues buying, and the government will still get the money they need in order to continue growing those businesses. However, that could be considered unfair as well. So my second proposition would be that instead of taxing large corporations, only 9%, because, well, large businesses are able to get out of that because they outsource their work. They can afford to do that. I know Microsoft had their revenue going into some kind of bank in Puerto Rico or something, and the taxes were able to be deducted from their whole amount because they transferred it out of the country. That's a smart way to do it. So government could instead tax them at an even level. If they said 15% as a flat rate, not taxing on specific things within the business, which is what is actually what they do. Instead, they could say, of your annual income, this is how much we tax, and they just take that away. If you average it out to about 15%, I believe with large businesses and small businesses, it would work pretty well, because then everyone would kind of share in the burden, and it's not unfair if you're a small business trying to become that large business. You have the same chance as that large business that's already there. Some people might say that small businesses need that extra push, they need that extra shove, they need to get through that in order to get to the large business because that's what they do and that's what they need to do. So as a small business, I don't know about that. It's making it really difficult for them and pretty challenging actually. One example would be Kleenex, because every single company, Microsoft, Apple, everyone starts out as a small business because they have an idea and that's what they do. So with Kleenex, they actually probably started it as a small business, and everyone wipes their nose. You've used Kleenex at least 5 times in your life, and you don't know that you didn't know that you had a need for it before. You probably used your sleeve or toilet paper, but they created something specifically for your nose, for your eyes, for whatever it may be. There's an example. In conclusion, if you vote and there are ever laws passed about small businesses, you should vote in a way that would help them, that would lower their taxes, that would help them